أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أيتها الأخوات أيها الإخوة أحييكم بتحية الإسلام تحية من عند الله مباركة طيبة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, I think that we heard the first part of this session with this talk from our sister Muslima, the overall understanding of the way we have to understand the meaning of Sharia and what is within our universe of reference, our frame of reference, things that are the principles that are immutable and other understandings about principles and the way they are implemented that has to do with time and space. Now, what I want to do is not only it's from that framework to come to you. Very often, we sit down, we look at our scholars, the ulama, and say, it's as if they are not coming with the right answers for our time. We feel that there is a gap between what are our questions and what are their answers. And if not, if we are not specialized, deal with economists, deal with medical doctors, deal with people who are dealing with cultures now and psychology and gender issues. It's clear that the problems that we have today are very complex. The answers that we get are not always matching the level of sophistication that we are dealing with within our society. So now we can sit down and blame the religious voices and the religious authority, or if we don't blame all, we idealize one and say this is the one. And the problem is not in our scholars, the problem is in the followers. In fact, the problem is you. The problem is you, because the quality of your questions will tell you about the quality of the answers. So you can be intellectually passive and blame, but now it's the time to become subject of your own knowledge and ask the right questions. To be involved. No, you know, there is a fatwa, which is a special fatwa with me. You don't clap. And you don't say Allahu Akbar, you just think about it, and all together, if you like it, think about it. If you don't like it, think about it twice. So the point here is for us to get it right and to understand where is your responsibility. Because if we have conventions like this one, if we come to his brothers and sisters in Islam and we want our brains and our hearts to be together, is not to sit down and to hope and to idealize the past and to hope about a better future while we are passive intellectually. We are not involved in the whole process. And you, in the United States of America, in this society where you can get education and you can get knowledge, you can get it in Arabic, you can get it in English, you can get it in all the languages, your responsibility is double of the responsibility of many Muslims in Muslim majority countries. They cannot even get knowledge. So you have to take it as a responsibility. Don't take your presence in the West as something which is a liability or a problem. This is a great responsibility because you have freedom, you have scholars, you have conventions, you have time to think about, to learn, and to be much more involved in the process. And stop blaming the scholars, start by yourself. What are you providing your community with when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to understanding, when it comes to questions, when it comes to critical thinking? Are you thinking by proxy, waiting for someone to think for you, or are you starting with yourself? And the first is to come with your own questions that you have. And the first questions that you have is very simple, is the gap between who you are and what are the principles that you promote and advocate. And if you are serious about this, you can see that there is a gap. You know that. there is a gap between the principles that we are advocating and our way of life today. So we need to transform, we need to reform, and this is the point. So let me come with this first understanding, because many of my brothers and sisters reading books and getting some, the problem that I have is that you can write books 400 pages, and at the end your brothers and sisters are going to your website and they didn't even read one article. And I have many things like this. A long time ago, I was calling for a moratorium on the hudud. I was dealing with brothers and sisters. They didn't even read 9 pages, and they come and say, "What are you doing? This is kufr." And say, "What are you saying? You haven't read the text." And even scholars, sometimes they were responding to journalists because they had no time to read the text. So I'm sorry, this is not knowledge, this is media attitude, this is just dealing with consumerist intellectual attitude. We have to stop this, we have to be very deep in our understanding. And you might disagree, but at least you disagree based on knowledge, not based on perceptions. And I heard someone telling me that maybe you said something like this once there. And you weren't even there. So we have to be serious about this, and the point is, what are we talking about when we speak about reform? The first attitude, and this is my position, it can be challenged because I have some people who don't agree with me on this. I am never and will never advocate reforming Islam. And the hadith that was quoted at the beginning, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ لِهَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى رَأْسِ كُلِّ مِئَةٍ سَنَةٍ مَنْ يُجَدِّدُ لَهَا دِينَهَا. This understanding that Allah is going to send every century someone or a group of people renewing for this community its religion has nothing to do with renewing Islam. It's renewing the Muslim minds. And the Muslim understanding of the text. The texts are the texts. We are not going to change, and you have to be serious about the texts. Anyone who is coming to undermine the very essence of our text is undermining Islam and destroying Islam from within. What we are talking about here is, if we are serious about the way we deal with history and the way we deal with cultures, the way we deal with the differences between different countries and different nations and tribes, when we come back to Surah Al-Hujurat, when we get this right, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا لِتَعَارَفُوا. The meaning of this diversity in nations and tribes means in cultures and understanding, means that on this our mind should be educated. We should get it right. So this knowledge will help us to move on. So what we are talking about here is our minds, our intelligence, our intellect should be active, dynamic, in the light of the texts. So this is the tension that we have when it comes to, we need to reform the Muslim minds. And we need to reform the Muslim minds means also, there are 2 words that are important, al-islah wa tajdid. Al-Tajdid is in the hadith that we quoted right now. And Islah is everything about our societies, ourselves. And even ourselves. Islah nafsak means you have to reform yourself. So to get a better understanding of what is the meaning of reform, in fact, the best is to come back to our deep understanding of the spiritual transformation. Why? Because in fact, it's not only to look at the world and to look at sciences and to say in which way I am reforming Islam. What is the true and the deep understanding of the spiritual reform that is expected and required when it comes to Islam? In fact, the objective of the reform when it comes to yourself is what? What are you trying to get as you think about yourself? Don't think about the world. Think only about yourself. In fact, you should reform yourself to get something which is the main objective of life, which is peace. Salamat al-nafs wal-itmi'nan. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innu al-qulub means, in fact, that this connection with Allah is giving you peace. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you at the end and saying, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna. So at the end, what you want is peace. And to get this peace is the very objective of your reform. As long as you are not in a state of peace, you know that you still have things to do. And you know what? You will never be permanently at peace with yourself. So this is why everything which has to do with peace has to do with jihad. There is no peace without jihad. Why? Because peace is an instant in your spiritual life. So you have to struggle to get it. You have to struggle with your heart. You have to struggle with yourself. You have to struggle with the world. In fact, to get that peace which is the objective of your personal spiritual reform, you have to struggle with your heart and not only with your heart. Anyone who is presenting you Islam as something which is, you have to be in peace with your heart, so it comes to your heart, is not true. You will not get the peace of heart if you don't get intellectual peace. What is intellectual peace? Intellectual peace, to feel good with your heart, is when your mind gets its answers. And intellectual peace is helping you to get spiritual peace. Why? Because you have questions, and when you get the answers to this question, you feel at peace. The Prophet ﷺ did it, and this is the very beginning. The first intellectual spiritual revolution for the Prophet ﷺ when he was 35, before even he got the revelation. He was not happy with what was taught by the people. He was not happy with the idols. He was not happy with his society. He was not happy with power. He was not intellectually happy. What did he do? He left them. Every year he was to take 1 month alone, to be able to come to his heart and to come to his mind. Why my mind is not happy with what they are teaching? Because this is not the truth. And the truth is not coming first to your mind, it's coming to your heart, it's coming to your mind. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him and asked him, read. And he said, I can't read. Read is about what? Knowledge. You will get the peace, or your peace, or the heart at peace, when you will get the right knowledge. And the beginning for us as Muslims is at Tawheed. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. You came to me unstable, destabilized, with your mind not happy with the answer. Now you get the answer. And Allahu la ilaha illa ana. This is one. This is the immutable, universal principle for us. Wherever we go, you say la ilaha illallah. And then the knowledge is اقرأ باسم ربك, means you will get with this revelation peace of the mind. Your mind will be at peace. And because you will get this peace with your mind, you will get this peace with your heart. No peace without double dimensions, 2 dimensions. Peace of the heart based on the peace of the mind. And this is why today we all feel we live in the West, and we feel that our hearts are not very much at peace in our spiritual life, because our minds are not at peace with the answers that we have. That's the problem. The problem is an intellectual, psychological crisis based on this tension between lack of intellectual answers and lack of intimate peace. And it's a relationship that we have that we need to get. So the Prophet ﷺ, with the answers that he got from Allah, came back to them. He left unsatisfied. He came back equipped. Not only my heart will get peace, but now I have the answers. And the first attitude that he was asked to do with them is not a jihad with weapons. It was an intellectual jihad. وَلَا تُطِيعِ الْكَافِرِينَ وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. The great jihad is bihi, is al-Quran. This revelation is the knowledge that you get. So now we come back to the past, and we know that the highest times for our civilization was when the Muslims were spiritually deep and intellectually equipped. This is where they were able to face the challenges of the time with an intelligence, with understanding, never avoiding the world in the name of their spirituality. This is the new type of Sufis that we have now. The new type of Sufism is pray during the night, disappear during the day. The real Sufism is not that. The real Sufism is pray during the night to be equipped to change the world during the day. Exactly as the Prophet ﷺ was. But to do this, you have to be equipped. It's not only to pray with your heart, it's to be equipped with your mind to get this. And this is where our mind should always, there is, when your mind, your intellect is not asking questions, when you don't have a critical thinking, you are in a state of stagnation. And you know what is intellectual stagnation? Is regression. When your mind is stagnant, you are regressing. Because the true meaning of dealing with the world is siru fil ard wanzuru. Go, you will see. The world is talking to you. Sanurihim ayatina fil afaq. The world is talking to you. And questions are coming from the world. Why? Because the world is changing. Even you are not changing. The world is changing. And if you don't look at the world the way it is, you are regressing. You are not in the world. You are on the margin of the world. And many could say now, for the last centuries, we have been on the margin. But you don't have excuse, you Western Muslims. Because you are in the society that we say today, they are the greatest power in economic terms, in political terms, in cultural terms. The world culture is coming from your country. You know this. What many in the South are now suffering of, it's coming from the world culture that is produced here. What is your role in this? Are you waiting for a mufti to tell you how to deal with the world culture? Let's say it's haram. You need a mufti just in front of your TV set to tell you it's haram. You know when it's haram. Istafti qalbak. You know what is wrong and what is right. But what is our contribution here? What is our intellectual contribution to get this intellectual peace, to get this very strong spiritual life? Our reform could be only understood if we understood the very meaning of this spiritual transformation. And reform here is to transform, is not to adapt, is to change who you are. And there is something which is very important, that the Prophet ﷺ, when he got this, what was told to him is, you can change yourself if you get this very deep understanding of what Tawheed means in your life. La ilaha illallah means you can be better and you can do better and you can change this world for the better. It's possible. Tawakkul ala Allah is very powerful. La ilaha illallah atawakkalu ala Allah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's a powerful attitude. It has to do with your heart and it has to do with your mind. Because your mind, you can see, oh, there are limitations, but you can be involved in this and you should be involved in this. Now, you get this, that the first objective was peace. And you know, for years when I was asked about Islam, I kept on repeating, oh, the main objective of Islam is justice. And in fact, I was wrong. It's when I wrote the book on the Prophet ﷺ that I changed my mind. I changed the perception I have. And this is, once again, you know, you change because you study. And in fact, justice is a condition of peace. But justice is not the objective of Islam. The objective of Islam is peace. And justice is one of its conditions. At the end, what we want is this relationship to feel good and to be good with Allah and with ourselves. And then you understand that everything in Islam, it's between the principles, al-thawabit that we have at the beginning, and the objectives that we need to reach. So the principles, as it was said, I am not going to repeat this, they are al-thawabit, they are not going to change. And when it comes to al-aqidah, and when it comes to al-ibadat, there are things it's clear. We are not going to change the pillars of Islam. بُنِيَ الْإِسْلَامُ عَلَى خَمْسٍ يعني بُنِيَ الْإِسْلامُ عَلى خَمْسٍ. إِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيِّنٌ وَإِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيِّنٌ. It's clear that we are not going to change al-halal or haram. And anyone who is coming to present us a new type of Islam, and he is yuhallil haram or yuharrim halal, we say, no, that's not us. This is a new religion, and if you want, we can start an interfaith dialogue, but we are not going to talk about it. So sometimes you have to tell some people, this is an interfaith dialogue. It's not about Islam. Islam is about the principles that we know in muharramat, and we know what we are talking about. So al-aqidah, we agree on this. Well, ibadat. And this is why, be careful. Even though sometimes you look at some people, some brothers and sisters in your community, and they are literalists. And this is a mindset that you have to change, by the way. If you are serious about reforming Islam for the good, not reforming Islam, reforming the Muslim minds, and to be faithful to the Islamic principles, if you are serious about reforming your mind, you should reform your mind towards your own brothers and sisters. In which way? When you deal with the world, sometimes you are attracted by the world. And you are attracted by the world because the world is demanding, and you can be lost in the world. And you have sometimes brothers and sisters who are very strict with the text. And some are very literalists. As-Salafiyya, Al-Harfiyya, what we can see now, they are very strict with the text. And we can just say we don't agree with them and everything is wrong. And I think it's wrong to say everything is wrong. Many of our brothers and sisters who are very strict with the text are very useful for us. Because sometimes they come with the text and say, you are forgetting the text. You need to come back to the text. And very, very often, when it comes to al-ibadah, when it comes to al-aqidah, it's good to have our brothers and sisters who are strict. It's good. They are useful because they tell you, be careful, the world can attract you and you forget the texts. So you have to be strict with the text. So remember the Prophet ﷺ, he was dealing with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and he was dealing with Umar ibn al-Khattab. And one was apparently very, very sweet and the others very tough. And by the way, it's not exactly this. At the end, we understood that it's not exactly this. That at the end, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was the one who was standing up, and the one whose psychology was not strong enough to accept the death of the Prophet ﷺ was Umar ibn al-Khattab. So be careful with this power. Psychological power could change. So the point here is that the Prophet ﷺ was taking the qualities of this one and the qualities of this one and adding quality to quality. You have to have the same attitude within your community. You have people you don't disagree, you don't agree with many of their answers, but at least take the quality. They come with something which is useful, and you disagree on other things. On the same attitude is that someone is coming and say, I'm a Sufi, you know what, you Muslims, you are obsessed with the rules, you need to speak about heart. They are right as well. Because the problem that we have with some Muslims is that we are so obsessed with the rules that we forget the meanings of the rules. What we are trying to get. So it's good also to have some people talking about the in-depth understanding of why are you praying. You know, you have people who are very strict, you know, we have Buniya al-Islam ala khamsin. It's like, you know, a building, it's a house, it's strong. Buniya al-Islam ala khamsin. That's fine. But when you enter the building, after you have all this, you know, very strict with the rules, you understand that they are quite agitated within. No peace. They pray 5 times a day. They are very strict with the rules. But you open the door and you see hearts that are not at peace. And it's good to have some people say, be careful, within the house, there is a meaning. There is الروحانية الربانية كونوا ربانيين. So this is what we need to understand. I hope you understand what I mean by now. So my point here is to understand the meaning of reform and to understand that between these principles that are immutable, we need to look at the objectives. What do we want to achieve? And between the two, our heart, to get that peace, need to get a clear intellectual understanding of the principles that are immutable and a clear understanding of the objectives. And the objectives are also immutable. We are talking about dignity. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We are talking about al-adl. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ. We have principles that are today immutable. And we need to get this. Madrasat al-Maqasid in Usul al-Fiqh, al-Juwayni, and then after this Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, al-Shatibi, and all Ibn Ashur, and today Raisuni, and people, even Sheikh al-Qardawi and others are working on this, and they have been working on this for centuries by saying what are the principles. And we keep on repeating the 5 main principles that were set as the principles of Islam. And it's right when we talk about al-Din, wal-aql, wal-nafs, it's all, you know, religion, personal integrity, the self, it's al-aql, the intellect, is al-nasl, progeny, it's the goods that you have, al-amwal, and al-Qarafi added what we are translating in English by dignity, which is al-'ird. in fact, dignity would be al-karama. But anyway, we have these principles, are principles that we need to reach. Now, we are dealing with our sources and trying to be very clear on the sources and very clear on the principles. And we are not playing with this. Now we get an understanding of there are immutable principles and we have to follow the principles to get the objective. And by the way, Sharia, it's very much about a way, a path towards objectives that we need to reach. ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها. فاتبعها in Arabic means follow it. So we put you in a path, a way you have to follow. ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون. And don't follow the desires, الهوى. So the difference is there are rules and limits and principles on your way. Don't follow your instincts or your desire or the people who don't know. It's based on what? Knowledge. الذين لا يعلمون. And it's coming from where you will get this inner peace when you think. No inner peace without a mind that is aware of the challenges of her or his time. And then this is also exactly the same that we have in Islam when it comes to this tension between what we want and the objectives. What I wanted to say here, it's once again based on knowledge and based on what we are trying to get is to be at peace with al-haq, with the truth. Once again, when we have لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا, to every community, to every religion, we gave them a path, we gave them a frame, and we gave them a methodology. Just before that, what we have in the verse, وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ, don't follow their desires. عَمَّا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Al-Haq is Allah, wal-Haq is the way you deal with the principle. So you need to have the principles right. You need to have this relying on the text. But now, having done this, what we need to understand is what I said first about reform. The way you have to reform yourself is the way you have to reform your understanding of yourself, of your society, and the way you have to deal with the objectives. But to get this, sometimes you need to deal with the world, and the world is telling you that it might be that the overall objectives that you had in the past should be reassessed. In fact, you read the Quran and you got some principles, overall principles, but now we deal with the world, and the world is telling you these principles that you extracted a long time ago are not enough. Check your mind. Come back to the text and read the text in the light of the contemporary challenges. This is where we are talking about reforming our mind. The world is sending us questions, very complex. You can't today come with an economic alternative just by saying we have two principles in Islam. La riba, that there is no interest, and zakat. That's fine. Are you going to transform the economy, the global economic order with these two principles? No, these are means. Now you need to get the knowledge of how it works to use the means to reform in the light of the ends and the objectives. So this has to do with intellectual dynamism, knowledge. You get the truth. You know what you want, but you need to know with what you deal. You know what you want, but you still need to know with what you deal. What is the issue at stake? And it's very easy when it comes to, for example, medical sciences. We know that today what we know about the brain, what we know about the body, it's very complex. What we knew in the past was not what we know now. So it's very easy now to come and, for example, things that have to do, for example, with abortion, things that have to do with euthanasia, things that have to do with, for example, the way they deal with bioethics. These are complex questions. If you come with this understanding of the past, we are not going to get the right answer. And then if you don't get the right answers, we are not going to be at peace. And we are not going to contribute to the challenges of our time. So we need to get the knowledge of the people who know the world the way it is now, in economy, in, for example, in education. what we know about education now. Do you think that our answer to education is the right one when we sit down in the United States of America and we say, you know what, the answer to protect our kids is only through Islamic schools? It means that you are not reading all what we know now about what is shaping the behavior in our societies today. It's not only schools. What is said today is what is taught at school, and the peer environment is only impacting on 38% of your kids. The rest is outside. Is at home, is in front of the TV set and the computer, and outside, sports and all the cultural activities. What are the Muslims doing on that? It's not by having only Islamic schools that that's it, we get the answer. That's a half an answer. It's third an answer. Education in industrialized society in our world today, with all the means that we have, is much more than schools. It's the environment. And we need people to deal with this. To deal with an understanding which is a comprehensive understanding of what education means in our society. So this simplistic response to complex reality comes because the scholars of the text, they don't get this. You can't today spend 15 years studying Islam and text and all this, and then you come with the world and you know the world the way it is. It's impossible. This was possible centuries ago. Now we need people who come and are challenging, discussing, debating with the scholars of the text and coming with the knowledge. Do you think that the scholar who is a specialist in the text, what nusus, what TARIQ, what turath, and all these can come today and challenge what the economists know about what is happening in the world? It's impossible. But our understanding is, let us ask the Sheikh. He will give us the answers about everything. So I'm going to give you another example. You know the statistics, what they are saying? Look at this room today. And the Muslims are very far. You are going to have a very important problem. And we have to deal with this. What is going to be the community answer to what is happening in education around the world today? It's transnational. It's not only in the West, but in the West is even more and more problematic than in Muslim majority countries. All the statistics are showing that by having access to education, our sisters are now doing much better than men. So they are getting more knowledge, they are more equipped, and they are much more in universities. And now our answer as Muslims is to say, you know what, sisters? You have to follow the men. And the sisters are telling you, where are these men you are talking about? And the mufti or the ulama are saying, look for them. Wait for them. Sabrun Jamil, wallahu al-musta'an. مش كده؟ المصري. It's the same everywhere. And now we have to deal with this. It means that our education in our family in the coming future, this is a very important thing. It's not what are you doing with your daughters. It's a very deep discussion about what are you doing with your sons. That's it. So the problem in Islam is not women in Islam, as the West is saying. The Muslims should know that the problem is men in Islam. And this is where we want this. No. This was not my intention. Okay. So the point here is really much to look at the problems of today and to be able to come with the questions, the right questions, because we know the reality of our world and we need to get that. So get me right now. I'm not talking about reforming Islam, I'm talking about reforming the Muslim mind. I'm not talking about reform that is just adapting to the world the way it is in the light of the spiritual reform is how do you transform yourself? Knowing that the highest level, the highest objective is peace, and then we have lots of other principles that should come. And these principles and objectives should come not only in the light of what the scholars said in the past, but the challenges. It is 5 minutes? Okay. He showed it to me before. So, what? So, the point is the principles are what we cannot just rely on 5 principles. Now we have to be much more sophisticated in many. No, I will finish now. No, because it's important to have questions and to open. But I forgot now. I was saying that, yes, the principles of the past, the 5 principles, we need to now to add principles depending on the fields. And who are the people who are going to help us to have more sophisticated objectives when it comes to medicine, when it comes to economy, when it comes to gender, when it comes to environment, when it comes to psychology. Psychology, it's deep. It's deep. It's the forgotten area study in our community. And because it's the forgotten area of study, we end up being superstitious. I'm not going to get married because there is a jinn somewhere. You know, all this philosophy that we have, superstition about jinn, and you know, the jinn and junoon are a reality. But it ends up in our community as de-responsibilizing us. They say, it's not me, it's something else. I'm the victim. And this is where psychology is making you a subject that is responsible. Superstition is making you an object that is not responsible. And we need to shift to come to what is your responsibility to get psychological stability. And we need to deal with this as Muslims. That's deep. That's a very deep challenge that we need to understand as Muslims as well. So having said that, I come to my last point, which is this reform that we are talking about, and in which way we are dealing with all these dimensions that we are trying to avoid hawa and coming to al-haq wal-ilm wal-ahkam, and this direction towards the objectives is we need to be much more involved intellectually. And who are the people who are going to help the scholars to get the right questions? And this is where I was referring to you. You are the people. You are the brothers and sisters in every field who should set and put the right questions. What are you experiencing in all these fields? For example, the center that we started, and this is where we want you to be involved, the Center for Islamic Legislation and Ethics in Qatar that we set last year, dealing with scholars. What we want is to work on 3 levels. And the first one is to get the scholars of the text and the scholars of the context to work together. For example, we have a first meeting in January in bioethics. And if you listen to what is produced by some of the bioethicists in the West, they are coming with very strong and powerful universal principles. And we have something to say about this as Muslims, but we need the scholars to come and to listen and to challenge and to produce something which is, this is the contemporary Islamic applied ethics in bioethics. This is what we need. And this is where we deal with them in closed doors, because the problem that we have with many scholars, they are scared and afraid. But this is not something that we can blame them. It's also because of you. You have a problem with the way you deal with knowledge yourself. You are very emotional. So when someone is repeating what you think is right or what you like, you are supporting him. But when you are not used to this, you can reject a scholar only because you hear or you think or you perceive that it's not what you think. We have a very emotional community. It's not a community based on knowledge, it's a community based on emotions. So this is where we are coming with scholars of the text and the context. What we need, and we are going to do this in economy, in arts, for example. Very, very important. We are talking about resisting and reforming a world culture. Not everything in the American culture is bad, but there are many things in this world culture that are based on consumerism. Are we doing this? Are we promoting this? No, we want something else. So we need to be involved in alternative culture, but at the highest level of professionalism and sophistication. You can't deal with, you know, this powerful media and business. It's a business now, arts and culture. and we come with Islamic song. I'm Muslim, I'm happy. That's fine, I'm not a kid. That's not the answer. So now we have some people who are coming with something which is more sophisticated. But we need to think, what is Islamic in arts? Arabic terms? Verses of the Quran? Is this what makes something Islamic? Or dignity, elevation, spiritual understanding, universal message, speaking about Islam without mentioning Islam, speaking about God without mentioning God, talking about the essence of things. No, think about it. Don't clap, think about it. Do it. Change, do something out of that. Stop clapping and say, you know, it remembers me of my father, rahimahullah. I'm just following, I'm just nothing to be proud of. I'm just following something which was given to me. And once he was giving a lecture like this, and someone looked at him and said, you, for 20 years, you keep on repeating the same thing. And look at us, nothing is changing. He was right. And my father, rahimahullah, responded and said, you, for the last 20 years, you have been listening to us. And what are you doing? That's the right answer. Think about it. We can't keep on blaming each other, but at the end of the day, who is doing the job? You can carry on clapping, it's not going to change anything. The starting point is to stop clapping and starting thinking. My conclusion, and the last thing that I wanted to say, is in all these fields, we are working with scholars, we are working with students, we want students to be specialized. You have to be specialized with this overall comprehensive understanding, but specialized arts, education, gender, and all this come together and be involved. And then to reach out, because many of the fatwa, many of the things that were produced by scholars, you don't even know them, because they are not reaching out. So let us come to this understanding, inshallah, and please stop blaming the people who are not doing what you would like them to do, and start with yourself. Wallahu a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
It's a tough job. I'd hate to interrupt him, but we're trying to allow, inshallah, some time for questions. We'll take the first question. The first question is for Dr. Tariq. You speak of the imperative of to think critically, to question, and to seek out answers, to understand the purpose of our practices. How does one go about creating a space for critical inquiry when questions and any thoughts that are not quote-unquote popular, but not necessarily un-Islamic, are labeled polemical?
That's a very important question, and it in fact questions the way we are dealing with our own education. You have scholars and you have organizations, they are providing you with some knowledge, and that's fine, you can take what is given by those organizations. Now, it's important also as students and as teachers to open spaces where you have this critical thinking being allowed, and this is an important thing. You know, listen to what is happening, and just try to understand what is happening in Muslim majority countries these days. In MENA, for example, North African country, and in Egypt and in Syria. With all what is happening, now we can see that in political terms, there are challenges that should be tackled in different ways. We need new thought. And look at what the scholars came after all this, and challenged by the West, and challenged by the people in the streets, the people who took to the streets and they were challenging. They started thinking, oh, we might have to start with the first thing in Islam as to our societies is freedom. Have you heard this? Rashid al-Ghannouchi, Sheikh al-Qardawi are coming saying, be careful, it's not first about Sharia, freedom first. That's it. Freedom first. So if you prevent me from getting my freedom of thinking, asking questions, we are scared. As Muslima said, we are scared of questions because we are not confident with the answers. So we better acknowledge the fact that we don't have answers and deal with the questions. But this is you. This is where you have to do the job. Open circles where you are doing this. And do it in a constructive way, please, because this is, you know, this question, it's important because it has to do with your mindset and your attitude. You know, be positive. Some people are looking at the community, they say, oh, this community is just, that's not possible. You know, you are the more critical towards ourselves. Always, you know, negative. I think that we should be constructively critical. And constructively critical means be positive. Look, you know, ask the people who are here. I don't know, this is, how many conventions did you have? 11th. If you look at 11th, if you look at the situation of Western Muslims 50 years ago, 30 years ago, who was or would have been able to think that we were going at that level with all these Muslims, the more educated coming to Islam? We are doing good, alhamdulillah. Islam is moving in the right direction, alhamdulillah. Be positive. But by being positive at the same time, just look at what is missing. Be positive as what we have achieved and be critical as what we have to reform and improve. This is it. This is the intellectual attitude. And I would suggest for you as students in universities to stop when you are a Muslim organization in the campus, always to talk about the same topics, always to invite Muslims to talk to Muslims and to say between Muslims that the non-Muslims don't listen to us. Be open, invite non-Muslims, be critical, listen to what they have to say, and this is what is helping you to open your minds, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Tariq. There was another question regarding the role of Muslim sisters. I'll turn it to Sister Muslim.
Sure, thank you. So the question is, so with the rule of women in the U.S. today, what flexibility do women have? I know a rule is that women cannot go on a journey of one night without a mahram. Can women today go on a journey without a man, and for how long? This is last night this question was also asked. And I mentioned, and this is not my personal fatwa, this has been already answered, alhamdulillah, by various shuyukh. Sheikh Qaradawi has a fatwa on this. And he mentions that the period of travel was not one day, it was 3 days and 3 nights, if you want to go technically by the numbers, but specifically that the crux of the issue is ensuring her safety. So as long as a woman's safety is ensured, then she's allowed to travel by herself, according to his opinion. Wallahu alam.
We have another, inshallah, 10 more minutes. We've been given another 5 minutes from the program. I would ask from Dr. Tariq to elaborate a little bit on the role of individuals and maybe organizations as well in the West to revive the intellectual piece, our role in answering key questions to social justice, economic justice, the answer to educations, etc. What can we as individuals or Muslim organizations can actually do? What are some of the tactical things that can be done?
No, it would be not only another lecture, but a long seminar to think about the methodology. But at least what we can say today when we look at the state of affairs in our societies now or our communities in the West is it's really to start by there is a lack of vision sometimes because there is a lack of a clear understanding of what are the priorities. So this is where it's important to prioritize. What do we want to do and what do we want to put our effort first? And it's clear that, for example, now, you know, I'm teaching a course in Qatar, and the name was surprising for many. It's Sharia, Sufism, and Ethics. You get that? I'd say it's quite difficult to get and say what is the relationship. And I think that the three things are part of one of the essence of our understanding is for us as an organization, for any organization in the West, is to get there's understanding that many of the Muslims are dealing with a deep problem. Sometimes they are too much obsessed with Sharia and rules. Sometimes too much obsessed with the spiritual dimension, and they are thinking, oh, I have to reform myself before being active. Not understanding that, in fact, the best way to reform yourself is to be active. It's to be. It's through action. You know, الإيمان يزيد وينقص ويثبته العمل. It's just that your face is down, have downs and ups, and what is going to help you is the action. الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. So the first thing that we might expect from an organization is to get the right balance between rules and meanings. And what does it mean for you people, for you members, is very much to stress on the meanings of things, is why are we doing what we are doing. And to get the meanings is always to let the people speak. We need organizations that are much more listening to the members than directing through activities. So space where we have intellectual discussion, listening to some of the requests and some of the concerns. And also, look, all the people who are here in this room are not representing the Muslims in the United States. They are much more outside than inside. You need to listen to why they are not inside, why they are lost sometimes, and why they are dealing with something which could be a spiritual crisis. We have to listen more. And then there are the fields that are priority fields. Of course, education is one, but I would say culture. I would say that one of the things that we have to celebrate more and to be involved more is arts and creativity. Muslims and Western Muslims in general are lacking creativity, intellectual creativity, cultural activity, artistic creativity, and it's essential now. Now it's essential because one of the main challenges that we are facing is not what is coming in our mind, but what is taking over our emotions. And our emotions are the first jail. This is what we have to liberate. So I think that this is something which is important. And also to stop idealizing the past. By also, you know, you learn from history. In one of the books that is completely neglected by many Muslims, The Quest for Meaning, I'm saying that everyone on earth, every human being today has to come back to 4 main disciplines. The first one is history. And Muslims should deal with history in another way as they are doing. This kind of idealizing the past as everything was good in the past, this is putting us in a situation that we are victimizing ourselves, that we say we cannot do it. So we should be more critical with this type of knowledge. The second is about knowledge of religions. Too many Muslims live in the States, they don't know anything about other religions. Anything about, you know, because the other religions are sometimes sending you questions to get better understanding of your own religion. This is critical also. This is why we are here. لِتَعَارَفُوا is not a one, it's a two-way process. لِتَعَارَفُوا, it means know and let the people know you. So religion, arts, it's important, and also philosophy. Because, you know, some people and the Salafis sometimes when they knew that I was studying philosophy, say, oh, philosopher. So as if nothing. And in fact, I think it's wrong because the philosophy, it's also helping us to get the question, why are we doing what we are doing? So I would say the education is important. And the last point on which I would very much insist is anything that could be perceived as a contribution to your society. Think as a Muslim organization as what is your added value in the society. What are you giving? Not only where are you accepted? You know, we had Justin Trudeau who came to a convention in Canada, and he was saying we are not talking about toleration, we are talking about acceptance. And I would say no, it's not about acceptance. I don't want the people to accept me. I want to be respected, and I am going to be respected by what I give to people. Remember this in the United States of America. I know that when it comes to soccer, you get it right. Very easy. You know Zinedine Zidane. And I'm always keeping a very simple example. When you are in the suburbs and your name is Abdullah, the first question is, where do you come from? When you are Zinedine Zidane and you play in the French team and you make the French team win, this is forgotten. Is where we are heading together. So you make us win, we forget about your past. Your past is not a problem. You are perceived as a problem, where do you come from? You get that? So the added value. So be in social issues, in universities, in your job market, what Zinedine Zidane is for soccer in France. Not easy, but you can make it. Be positive.
Jazakumullah khair. I'll ask Sister, I'll ask a couple of minutes of concluding remarks. Anything you would like to share with our audience, and then we'll do the same.
Something I was thinking about when Dr. Tariq was just speaking right now is in terms of contribution. This is a thought to put out there, again, for all of us to reflect on, because it's not fully developed, is the fact that as a community that seeks to contribute in America, something that I see holding us back is we tend to be isolated in the way that we work. So if I'm a young Muslim in the community, I'm going to work for only a Muslim organization and have very limited contact with other organizations, but only through that Muslim organization. And I think we have to become comfortable enough to send out our young people in to be the leaders of the greater organizations in society. You have, instead of having Muslim Green Team, I know that's good for promoting, environmental safety issues and health issues within the Muslim community, but also being part of the green effort at large, whether it's social work, whether it's civil rights work, sending out our talented youth to be the presidents or to be the Zinedine Zidanes of these organizations that are affecting the greater society and already working on the issues we already agree with. So let go of some of our youth. They don't need to just work for MAS and ICNA and CARE and MPAC. Send them out to other organizations and say, we want you to come back and make a huge difference for the greater society there. And that's going to take a level of comfort on our side. It's also going to take a level of study so that we understand the society and we send them out to places that they can really truly have that type of impact. So I leave with just that thought. Let's think about getting outside of our bubble and joining and participating, not just integration, but participation with the greater society, inshallah.
Khair, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. It's extremely hard to conclude such a beautiful session. Jazakumullah khair for all your remarks, valuable comments. Inshallah, we would like to encourage everyone of the attendance. I hope that we all have benefited from this. Share the content. The program team wanted to, just a few reminders, share what your thoughts are. Social media in this country is the voice of the people. There's no need to remind us that the Muslim voice is definitely absent in the market. So share your thoughts. If there's a comment that you heard that touched you, that you would like to share with your people, tweet it, put it on your Facebook, share it with others. Have your voice being heard, inshallah. Most of you probably have already downloaded the convention app. If you haven't, please do so. The latest program and the program updates, the biographies of all of us speakers are on it. A couple of quick reminders, inshallah. Dhuhr and Asr prayer for travelers at 1:10 p.m. Maghrib prayers at 4:30 and 5:55 due to space. So try to plan accordingly. Health and screening blood drive by MAS ICNA, inshallah, outside. The Borma special event is in noon is in the Ohio meeting room. Meet the speakers in the bazaar, Dr. Tariq Ramadan, at 7 p.m. tonight, inshallah, between 7 and 7:30. Jazakumullah khair, and we'll conclude. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.